background. Oh, there we go. I made the worst error possible, and I have my own music playing in the background. Welcome to the Wattpad Books channel, where we don't have our background music playing, and we talk about the books from Wattpad Books, the Wattpad Books imprint, of course, that we're all excited about, and as authors, we want to know how to get our books on there. Just a brief note, the contest is still going on, so you have a chance to go ahead and comment "We Thrive Together" in the comment section, along with your Wattpad username. If you don't have a Wattpad username, we can't give you the prize. So make sure to go do that, and we will, award the prize in the conversation afterward. For this panel, we have some authors with us today who have all been published by Wattpad Books and have books coming up. Okay, I'm going to go in order. We have Sabrina Blackburry, whose novel Dirty. I'm sorry. I should not get this wrong after so many years of knowing your titles. But she writes the Dirty Lying series, and her novel Dirty Lying Theories, the first in the series, is coming out on Wattpad Books very soon. Wendy Million, you have. Oh my gosh, I have to plug in my power. The Wendy Million. Okay, right. Let me get back on track. Wendy Million is the author of When Stars Fall, and I believe that's coming in next year.
It's already out. It's mismatched. It's 2023.
Oh, well, okay then. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I am so bad at this thing. I don't know why they let me on camera. Anyway, Caroline Richardson just released her first novel on Wattpad Books, out of his league, and it's got this brilliant cover that everyone absolutely adores. Grace Collins, this is actually one of the first Wattpad books that I read, and I actually have a copy there, so I have to make sure to go buy everybody else's books. Grace Collins has the Creatures of the Night, which was on Wattpad Page Stories first, and now it's Wattpad Books. Jessica Cunsolo, a legend among legends with the With Me series. I believe you have 3 books out now.
The last one comes out in November. Yes.
Well, holy expletive. So we're going to get into the chat here, and I promise without any swearing or any additional expletives. Let's get into the first question. Can you share your journey from being a Wattpad author to an author published by Wattpad Books? I'm going to start with the first one of you who was published. Grace, want to go?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for me, I started out on Wattpad in 2013, and I had originally been posting specifically my story Creatures of the Night on Tumblr, which I do not recommend. It's not like a good place to post books or anything, and I used to put them as like text posts, and it definitely wasn't very efficient. But then one of my followers kind of messaged me, and they're like, "Hey, have you heard of Wattpad?" And so I went onto the site and I started reading first, and then I started sharing some other stories. And then I think in 2016, one of my books got onto the Wattie's long list. And it didn't go any further than that, but I think that's the first time that I kind of got on Wattpad's radar. And then, so following from that, in 2019, they invited me to join the Paid Stories program with that story that was on the long list. However, I couldn't put that story on, so they said, "Do you want to write something new?" And so I wrote, well, I'd already kind of written Creatures of the Night, and so I rewrote that one, I guess, a while later. And from there, it kind of just picked up in Paid Stories. I think it did quite well, and in September 2019, I got a very exciting phone call, and the rest is history.
Oh, brilliant. Caroline, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, sure. So I started writing on Wattpad in about 2015. and just threw some short stories up. And then when I finished writing my first full-length novel, my husband dared me to put it on the website because I was very scared to let anyone else read it. And of course, got about 50 reads, and that was it. Fast forward a couple of years, and I posted my third complete book, Two Cream No Sugar, on the website, and it got picked up on the editor's pick list in the summer of 2019. And then I decided to enter it in the Watties just for fun. I've never expected it to go anywhere. It was a practice book. It was just a little fun book about a baseball player and a sommelier. And I won a Wattie. And it wasn't long after that, they invited me to paid. And so I went into paid late fall, early winter of 2019. And then in 2020, I got the call and said they wanted to publish it. And it's kind of gone from there. So it actually comes out in April next year, April 5th, right at the beginning of baseball season.
That's some great timing. Oh, Wattpad is at least looking for trends there. Jessica, it's your turn.
So I think my journey was a little bit different than the usual one. I started, well, I guess technically we all have unusual journeys in our own ways. I started writing when I was 17, and I just kept writing and going. And it was only supposed to be one book. It ended up being 3. I won a Wattie Award. I ended up getting millions and millions of views. So obviously that put me on the radar a little bit. I got a call from Wattpad, and they asked me to be a star. And then after that, they ended up giving me a shopping agreement. So back in the day, they would, instead of having their own publishing company, they would ship you out to other companies, kind of like acting as an agent. So that was what I had originally signed with them. And then a few months later, they ended up becoming their own publishing branch, and they signed me under them. So that's how I ended up getting She's With Me out there.
How old were you when you won the Wattie?
I think I was about 19. I don't remember. I think it was a 2017 Wattie. So math.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We're office today, not mathematicians.
I don't do math either. I think I was about 19 or 20. I was really young. I had just finished the book and then submitted it to the Wattie. So it was really exciting for me. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, Wendy, did you also submit to the Watties?
Yes. So I got my start in 2016. The first book that I ever posted was a young adult fantasy, and it was shortlisted for the Watties in 2017. And then I got shortlisted for another like CBC times Wattpad sort of competition thing. And then from there, I got invited to be a star. And then from there, they wanted to put what was then called Movie Star Memories. It became When Stars Fall into paid stories. So we did that. And then I won a 2020 Wattie for it. And then in January, February time, they approached me about putting When Stars Fall into ebook form. So that's how I ended up in the Wattpad Books umbrella.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of Wattie action going on here, especially with them coming up soon. Sabrina, it's your turn. Come on.
Okay, I didn't win a Wattie. Let's start there.
but
I've never won a Wattie. I've been shortlisted, but I've never won a Wattie. So I started on Wattpad and started Dirty Lying Fairies, both as a dare from an internet stranger. And I did that about 5 years ago. I've been on Wattpad for 5 years. So I was posting this story. The whole thing is that it's not a genre I've ever written in before. I didn't know anything about paranormal romance. I had to all of a sudden read a bunch of them. I was like, okay, so this is what it's about. And so I started writing Dirty Lying Fairies. I pantsed it. I regret that. But so the editing process right now is really cathartic. I'm really liking what it's turning into. But so I had this whole mess. I didn't plan on doing it. I didn't know what Wattpad was. So I'm like, yeah, let's make myself let strangers read these words I've written. And so I posted that, and then it kind of just went on. And I'm like, okay, I like this. And so I basically was never going to come back to it. Never had anything else to, I was done. I wasn't going to go back and edit it or anything. I'd moved on. I was writing other books. And then late 2020, I get contacted by Wattpad Books like, hey, we want one of your stories. And I'm thinking, what could you possibly want? we want this one. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right then. So Dirty Lying Fairies, which has a very special place in my heart and is the reason I write paranormal romance now instead of high fantasy, is coming out in late summer of 2022. So
You missed the whole Page Stories journey there.
I was in Paid Stories. Oh shoot.
Yes, this is where we met.
This is where we met. I met Rodney because I was in Paid Stories during the end of the beta, of it. And so we were there for a lot. We've been through a lot together, Rodney. And so, yeah, Dirty Lying Fairies is what got me in paid. Again, I wasn't going to do anything else with it. They wanted it in paid. So I was like, okay, I don't have to do anything. Here it is. It's just going to sit there and be in paid. And I have enjoyed that experience immensely. I did think that was the end of that journey, though, which is why the books conversation was just like left field for me. I was not prepared. So, and it had been in Paid Stories for so long. Like I said, the beta, and everyone else in Paid Stories was getting, contacted for studios or they were like winning Waddies or they were going on to publish their book. I'm like, that's okay. This is the end of the line for me. And I was wrong and I am not mad about it.
That was not the end of the line for you. You went on and you wrote Dirty Lying. Is it Dirty Lying Dragons?
Yeah, Dragons was next, and then Wolves, and I had to write the backstory for Charming Heather because you guys, the readers, were asking too many questions, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess I have to write a backstory now. And so everything after Fairies was the reader's fault. I was done, and then I was bullied on the internet into writing more stories in that universe, and so that's how that came to be. That wasn't planned either. None of that was planned.
Yeah, but the Dirty Lying Fairies isn't the only one that's coming out on Wattpad Books, is it?
Nope. 3-book deal. So Fairies I wrote on a dare, coming out in 2022. Dragons, which I wrote from bullying, I'm looking at you, internet, is coming out 2023, and then Wolves in 2024. So here we are.
It's a massive achievement to actually have a whole series picked up to be distributed. It's a good thing you kept on writing after the fact that it was actually taken up. So I say, way to go, Belize. Okay, so everybody's journey is different. I know that I was massively excited when I first heard of Wattpad Books. So excited that I actually had to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what's going on?" So, but the thing that a lot of people really don't understand is that making a transition from Wattpad, just being on Wattpad and going into an actual book form that it can be held in people's hands is a huge deal. So I need to ask you guys, what was the editing process like? Because we're going to touch on different areas here, but we're going to start with the editing, and this is something that people really misunderstand, maybe a little bit naively. Let's go with. Okay, Caroline, I know your story, so I'm gonna hold on for you for a little bit. Let's go with Jess. Jess.
Yeah, so I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the thing that's on Wattpad that we posted is our complete first draft. So once Wattpad gets their hands on it, their editors get their hands on it, it goes through a massive change, at least for my books. And I know a lot of you guys sitting here also went through a huge change with their writing compared to what they first posted. And the way it works very briefly is you get a letter from a developmental editor, and they basically go through and tell you all the plot holes, what's working, what's not working. And that is what you base your rewrites on. You don't have to take all of their advice, but usually they're right. My editor always points it out, like, I would say, like, Noah closed his locker and then walked away and then closed his locker and then talked to Amelia and then closed his locker. And he'd be like, he closes his locker like 15 times in this chapter. And it's stuff like that you don't realize that you're doing. So they point out the bigger plot holes. And it's through that you get like a nice, tighter story. Another big thing is that they really helped me hone in my ending. A lot of stuff kind of felt like a lot of loose threads. Even though it was a 3-book series, you still need to have some type of closure. And I think on Wattpad, I kind of got away with not having closure because it's like, there's another book, like just go read that one, it's free. But with a paid story, you had to have some type of closure there. So that's a huge difference, and editing really helped me a lot with kind of honing in my author voice.
did you have a lot of like input during that part of the process?
Yeah, for sure. After my developmental edits, I worked with an inline editor, and we went back and forth a lot. And even if I didn't agree with something, she'd be like, "Okay, that's cool. Like, it's your story." Stuff where it was like spelling, she'd be like, this is the wrong spelling. Like, you need to spell it this way." And I'd be like, "Okay." But if it was an idea or something that I didn't agree with, then I kept it in. There was a lot of stuff that I fought for. I fought for my cliffhanger ending. They told me not to do it. I did it anyways because I love cliffhanger endings. So obviously I didn't agree with that, but it's my book. And at the end of the day, they were really great with allowing me to do what I wanted with my book.
Hey, at least you got the cliffhanger.
I love my cliffhangers.
Okay, Grace, how was the editing process for you?
Yeah, I really loved the editing process, and I feel like I was really scared going into it because I'd heard everyone talking about how hard it can be and just really time consuming, but I found it really interesting, and I learned so much about writing myself. But I think quite a few of us Wattpad authors kind of get like a readability edit to begin with, which before the developmental edit, and you get this letter kind of listing all the bad habits that you have and all the things that you're repeating. And it can be brutal to read the first time. Like when I first read it, I thought I was a terrible writer, but then following from that, everything else was really interesting, and it definitely improved my writing. But in terms of the ending, I was similar to Jess in that they said to me that maybe I don't want to have a cliffhanger ending, but I held on to my cliffhanger ending because I also love cliffhangers. So yeah, I think the editing process can actually be really fun and can teach you so much about writing and your own writing specifically.
Oh, I know all about your cliffhanger ending. That actually led you to the into the sequel, which you have to figure out. So
yeah, and we know that I love writing that.
Oh yes. Well, but so was some of the advice about the cliffhanger ending correct? Especially now, in hindsight, you finished the sequel and had to wrestle with how to engage that cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think the ending did change a little bit from the Wattpad version because of the advice that they gave me, and they definitely give really good advice. So I tried to change it a little bit. But I did set myself up there to continue the story when it was a little bit difficult. But I'm glad that I kept the cliffhanger ending because I am really proud of the sequel that I wrote. So yeah.
Excellent. So Wendy, do you have a cliffhanger ending
No.
that they were telling you about?
No, I don't even tend to write that many cliffhangers at the end of my chapters. Actually, I'm not. I just don't. My brain just doesn't work that well. I don't class them as cliffhangers. Sometimes my readers call things cliffhangers that I wouldn't call cliffhangers. But for the editing process, for me, we did some reorganization of some of the chapters. I did a little bit of rewriting of some of it. There are some new scenes in there, and then some that got taken out. But overall, it was a pretty fluid process, like from the content edit to then a second smaller content edit just for little bits and pieces that were still needed some sort of resolution. And then the copy edits and then the proofread. Mine was a very fast process compared to a lot of the print books because we started in April and my book was out in September. So it was very, very fast.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know the edits usually can take quite a while, but that was wicked fast.
Yeah, they were turning stuff back to me very quickly. So.
Okay, so see, everybody has a different experience so far. Okay, so Caroline, I'm coming to you, but Sabrina, tell us about your edit process.
The edit process is really challenging, really challenging. I just want to echo what everyone else, especially Grace. I was like, yeah, that's right. It's very hard to hear that first part, and then you get further into it, and it's very good. You feel a lot of growth from it. You come out on the other end as a better writer. I feel like my editing journey right now is a little bit different because I have two editors. Deanna, the head of Wattpad Books right now, she is helping me edit for the romantic aspects of my book, which is great because I love her help. She's so wise in these things. However, her wheelhouse does not fall under fantasy. So we had to get somebody else to help with that. So somebody is editing my fantasy storylines and somebody's editing my romance in my book, and it's I'm getting it from both sides. It's actually really nice to have the dual perspectives though, because the book really is very split down the middle. We've got this, this romance, and we've also got this, this fantasy mystery to be solved basically. So you've got to really juggle both of those things, and you've got to do them well. So I'm getting perhaps twice the notes I should have gotten on my manuscripts, but I am glad for every one of them.
Oh, that first letter is absolutely brutal, and I know I believe Grace said that it can be a little daunting, but I know that it's always daunting, especially when you need a little time to process what they're saying. Which is going to take me over to Caroline, because she had a completely different reaction from everybody else when she got her letter.
Well, when I first got my editorial letter, I went into it with the attitude of, I've never done this before. This is my very first book going through a publishing process. I am going to keep myself open and just take it as it comes. And yeah, it's intimidating. It certainly is. But I started reading through it and I realized how much better the book was going to be once I got down to work. And so I read it and I reread it and I reread it. And I started looking at it and I was pulling out pieces and going, okay, well, I can work on that first and then I can work on that second. And once we got to work on the substantive edit, it was so much fun. I really loved it. I'm like, tear my book apart. This is great, because I know the book needed work. It was a first draft on Wattpad, and I mean, the book has been my book has been completely changed around and moved around. There's been whole scenes added. We took out an entire subplot. We moved things around. We changed some of the aspects on birth control in the sex scenes. And so a lot of things changed. And as we went through it, I was just enjoying it more and more. And then once we did the line edit, I was passed over to a second editor who is very baseball savvy. And we did a second sort of substantive and line edit altogether, which kind of ironed out some of the issues with my baseball knowledge and trivia that went through the book, because the main male lead, he's an MLB player. So we needed to get that right. So for instance, I had no idea that you can't name sports teams in MLB after gambling terms. Didn't know. So we had to change some team names. We had to change some dialogue around that. So all these little things come together, and having both those editors work on the book. I mean, the book looks nothing like it does for the paid version right now. Just the storyline's sort of the same, but the book is, I can't wait for people to read it, because I'm so excited to see the improvements and what people think of it. So for me, the editing process was so much fun.
Well, that actually brings us to another point, which is this is for everyone, so anybody can join in here. The difference from your initial draft and what do you have in the book? How much has it changed, and how much do you really appreciate that?
I would love to go.
Okay, go Sabrina.
It is kind of like she just said. It's the same storyline. Like, X character has this X thing happen to them, and then X happens by the end. However, I think a lot of changes happened. And earlier when I mentioned that I just I winged it, I pantsed it. I am a reformed pantser. I do plot things now, and I used to be better. I don't know what happened. I had a phase, and there was Dirty Lying Fairies. So going from pantsing something to actually kind of like backtracking and like firming up that structure, it feels so different. And there's some things have been taken out and some things have been added, and I'm really excited for the things that have been added. And strangely, I don't miss the things that were taken out. You know, in a sense, the first iteration of this story will always exist in paid stories on Wattpad. It's not going anywhere. There's just a new one. And I really appreciate everything that has changed about it. And it also, I think, shows that I was a different writer 5 years ago than I am now. So it is definitely different, though.
Okay, Jess, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I agree with Sabrina. For my experience, my first book was about 130,000 words. So obviously you can't publish that many words for a YA within their like book parameters. So we ended up cutting out and getting it down to 90,000 words. So when I was editing, I was like, I don't want to cut any of this out. Like, I love it all so much. This is amazing. But once you start going through and actually cutting out scenes that aren't needed, it tightens up the book a lot. But then on the flip side, my second book was only about 50,000 words. So I ended up cutting out some scenes and then writing it up to 90,000 words. And in my last book, it was about 90,000 words, but I ended up cutting it in half, throwing the last half in like the garbage, and then just rewriting the entire last half of my last book. So I had 3 different experiences for all of them. They're all completely different than what they were on Wattpad. And again, that's due to the editing process and also shaping it up from the difference between Wattpad serialization and traditional publishing. For example, all of my chapters ended on cliffhangers because, as I said, I love cliffhangers. But in traditional, you can't really do that. They want to kind of have the scene ended. So I had to change my structuring, and that ended up changing the way the book flowed. So now it reads more traditional and less serialization, but I think it also is like a nice, compact little book where you get like a nice start and finish, if that makes sense.
Okay, Grace, you want to go?
Yeah, every time Jess talks, I feel like I'm like, yes, I was going to say that. But I was similar in that mine was like 130,000 words. And I think we got it down to around like 75,000. And that was purely, I didn't cut any scenes. Like, it was just from cutting out non-essential narration, which I had so much of. Like, I'm sure many people can relate. He smiled like, 20 times on the same page, and I had to command F and find them all and delete them all. But I actually didn't cut any scenes. I added scenes, and I somehow still cut like 30,000 words from the manuscript. But again, like Jess said, I was similar with every chapter. I had ended on a cliffhanger, and kind of had to add chapters together so that it suited traditionally published books a bit more. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just cutting out lots of non-essential narration, and just overwriting, basically.
Okay, Wendy, do you recognize your story? Is it changed that much?
So we took out a subplot, so that made a fairly substantial difference. So those people who had read the original version and paid, and those who purchased the ebook would have noticed a fairly substantial subplot had been cut. And then we reorganized chapters. So that's the other thing. We kind of moved, it's a past present narrative. And so Deanna wanted the past and the present to sort of meld a little bit better than they were with the way I had ordered the chapters. So it was just a matter of rejigging it and figuring out which one should go where. And so I wasn't giving things away before I should be, or delaying something longer than it needed to be, or whatever the case may be. So it was at the time it felt a little bit daunting when I was trying to figure out 2 different like narratives, but it came together really well. I was really happy with the end result.
Well, Caroline, this question actually started off from you. So I know you're very proud of where the book has become. But okay, so I know from your thinking you embrace things. So, but was there any bit of pride that this is my book? How dare they change it? Was there any of that you had to get over, or?
Yes, I think there always is. These are our babies. These come from our imaginations, and they live in our brains and in our minds rent free. They live in our hearts. And so as I'm reading through and I'm realizing that I had to cut some things, I was like, oh, but I really like that. But okay, I had to trust. I had to kind of throw myself at the mercy of my editor, Deanna, and she's wonderful. I think we all have worked with her, and say, she knows what she's doing. She's done this before. So listen to what she's saying. Question it if you really want to, but really listen to it. So yeah, there was parts where I went, oh, that's going to suck not being there, but it makes the book better. And I had to remember that. I actually printed it and put it on my, in front of my desk. So it will make the book better. And there was a couple of things we had to change. There was one part where one of my sub characters, his name is Neptune, and I originally had him from Haiti, and I kind of modeled him after a security guard at my work who's Haitian and has this beautiful voice and he's this beautiful skin, and I'm like, I'm putting him in my book. And he's a baseball player in a minor league team, and we had to change that to him being Dominican because there are no Haitian baseball players in the MLB. We also had to change a subplot where he's wrongly arrested, and there's a kind of an undertone of, well, because he's a Black man, he's getting treated more harshly than he would be if he wasn't. And we had to soften that quite a bit, and we did a bit of a sensitivity edit on that. And I was kind of sad because I really wanted to kind of keep in the whole, they came together as a community to help this boy, young man, get through this trying time for him, but we didn't want to overarch into a white savior type of storyline in the subplot. So that had to change. And I was a little sad about that because I really liked the way it was written. My readers, when it's on Wattpad, they loved that. Most of them were commenting, this is great. But we realized for traditional publishing, that would have to be a little bit softer and a little bit more sensitive to current culture. So that changed. And in the end, wonderful, love it. But yeah, it can be hard sometimes to give up some things in your book that you know have struck a chord with you and with your readers beforehand.
Well, that's going to bring me to a very good point. Your editors. How much do you think you really have to trust in your editors? Because people, especially anyone who's never worked with an editor, doesn't really understand the relationship that is required, and that the editor is not out to change your book. The editor is out to make it better. I know personally, after someone went, my first editor went through my first novel that I was so proud of. She looked at me and said, "Rodney, there are 3 books in this one book. You've not written one thing." And if I had listened to her, my life would have been so much easier. So, Wendy, you want to chime in on the trusting your editor part?
So Deanna wasn't the first editor that I had worked with because I have a series with a small press as well. So I had already gone through my adjustment process, so to speak. But for sure, you have to trust that the editor you're working with understands story. And the other nice part about working with Deanna, and I think Jessica already touched on this, and maybe a couple other people, is that if I had a really good justification for why I needed or wanted to keep something, she was willing to hear that. So it wasn't like a my way or we're not publishing your book sort of situation. It was occasionally a negotiation, but for the most part, as long as I was able to keep some sense of perspective, the changes were all for the better. So.
No, I always like to argue with my editor just to keep things a little fresh. But Sabrina, what's your relationship like with your editor? Deanna is your editor as well, isn't she? You have 2 editors.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think it's really good. I don't come from a background of I don't have any education in writing. I don't have any schooling with any creative writing or anything like that. So I really have to kind of trust them on certain levels that they know rules that I don't. And I recognized every single time one of these things, like I would have a bad habit and they're like, we don't do that in trad. And I would see it for what it was. And I was like, I know why you don't do that in trad. It's because it's a bad idea. And then I would have to fix it. So I think I have a lot of faith because they know more than I do. They both have been in the industry. They've got all this experience under their belt. Like what's not to, now that's not to say I just go in and blindly, there's been like a point or two that I'm like, I don't want to do that. But none of it has ended up being very big, not necessarily something consequential. So we've never had a reason to like severely butt heads. I don't know if that'll happen in the future books. It might, but for now, I have been in agreement with everything that has been spoken to for the most part. So I've got a lot of respect for them for what they do. I don't have the chops to be an editor. So I appreciate them.
Okay. Jess, anyone take it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sabrina. Again, I'm agreeing with you a lot today, Sabrina.
Fight.
This might just turn into like the I Love Deanna show because we all have Deanna. We all love Deanna. But she's great. When I first started working with her, obviously we're kind of like testing each other out and like seeing how it would go. But now, like, I'm 3 books in with her, we know each other's style. And she did help me grow a lot with my writing. For example, your editor is going to point out stuff that you don't notice that you do. So I start sentences with I a lot, but it'll be like I, like 6 sentences in a row. And she'd be like, Jessica, like, you shouldn't be doing that. And then she'd like point it out, like every other paragraph, I was doing that. So as I continued writing and I was doing my rewrites, I would catch myself before I did that and be like, Deanna's going to like call me out on that. So I better fix that now so that we can just move on and do some other stuff. So working with her was great, and you get to notice all of like the little habits. And obviously we've grown a relationship now that we've been through so many books together. So as I said, I know what she's going to say. So I think I've gone a little better because of that.
Okay. And Grace.
Yeah, I think I went into it very nervous, and I didn't really know that much. All the most I knew from writing was watching YouTube videos. So initially I was like, every single change, I was like, accept, like, because I saw them as the professionals, and like everyone else has mentioned, they know the business, they know what works and what doesn't. And from that, I think that's what's developed my writing so much, is because the things that they suggested while editing that book, now when I'm writing, I remember those things.
Okay, it's perfect. It looks like we're going to have to get together and send Deanna a nice big bouquet of flowers after this, because everyone loves her. Well, that should make anyone who's really looking at being picked up by Wattpad Books a little bit more comfortable. It's very enlightening to hear this. I had a question which I completely lost, so I'm just going to go with one of the scripted ones. So we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about covers. Our favorite topic. How much input do you have on the covers? Eeny, meeny, miny, Sabrina.
They definitely ask you if you have anything in mind. So, but what I did was I said, I don't want input. I'm not a cover designer. I'd like to be. I love playing with that kind of stuff, but I'm not one. I know I'm not one. And I also, like, you know, growing up, I would look through, oh, how do you become an author? What's the process like? And all I've ever known from being told or interviews or whatever is that, oh, you don't get to pick your title, you don't get to pick your cover. So I'm like, well, if I don't go in it with any expectations, I can't be disappointed. And I wasn't at all. I'm really happy with my cover, actually, and I am so excited to see it in real life.
What are you allowed to reveal it yet?
I'm allowed to reveal it here today, right now.
We would actually love that, because I love your original cover.
Yes, by
Rin Touching.
Yes, it was, and she did such a good job, and I was blown away. I didn't think we were going to have anything better, like, ever.
It was great because it actually allowed it to be used on the different books in the series. So it was a great title and a great cover. So I was actually jealous of those two aspects. So can you share?
I don't know if I have the capability of sharing my screen or not, but I just sent it to you.
Oh, okay.
Because you're the moderator, do you know how to do that?
What if I said no?
I don't know how to share my screen. You want me to hold my?
It's okay. I got it.
I can hold my phone up to the camera.
That's all right. We're gonna bring it up, and
oh, I'm excited too.
Okay, file. This cover is amazing. So that is, get over here. Okay, cover, and where's the cover?
The suspense. I feel like we need a drum roll.
My heart's pounding.
Oh, darn it, Rodney.
Or the
Rodney's lost the cover. Rodney apologizes. Okay, check credit. That's not good.
I can hold my phone up to the
I'm
camera.
gonna send it over to Gary, and Gary can share it there. Let's move on.
Gary will save us.
Yes, I'll send it. I'll email it to you right now, Gary. Let's move on to Caroline. Your new cover just got approved, and it's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, so I got to reveal my cover in August. I was on a month-long RV trip up north of Lake Superior when they said, "Hey, guess what? Your cover's ready. Let's show it off." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Thankfully, we were working from RV, my husband and I, so I was able to have internet and do all that. And Frolic.com did the reveal. It's a fantastic illustrated cover. I couldn't be happier with it. It's fun. It's flirty. It's cute. And one of the things that happened was Deanna told me, we're going to go for an illustrated cover because we want it to have more mainstream romance fan appeal. And I went, go for it. The artist that did the cover, Elliot Carroll, fantastic. And I didn't have a lot of input in what it was going to look like. All I knew was the aesthetics they were going for. And they wanted to show Josh and Gretchen on the cover at the meet cute, which is the coffee in the airport. And the first cover came through and Josh didn't have a coffee in his hand. And I kind of emailed Deanna and goes, "Where's Josh's coffee?" She went, "Oh my God, she had to have a coffee. That's the whole point." So when the second cover came back, I was completely in love with it. And it has gotten fantastic reviews. Anybody who's seen it has said it's really great. They love it. So I'm really looking forward to next April, seeing how it does once it's loose in the world for everyone to see. So
yeah, it's gotten quite a few likes on NetGalley. So
yes, it has. It's doing well.
All right. Okay. Did it hit Wendy yet? No, Wendy, tell me about your cover.
So my cover is the same as my paid stories cover. So originally for paid stories, I got like 3 different covers to choose from. And then I picked from that, and then they just decided to go with that one for the ebook as well. I really like my cover for paid stories, so that was fine with me. But that's how that one came about. So
okay, well now we are ready to share Sabrina's cover. Drum roll, please.
Oh, it's so pretty!
I love it.
We should have had a sound effect. So I'm just going to go. Okay. Thank you so much, Gary. All right, so we're going to talk to. Yeah, it's so hard to choose. Okay, fine. We'll talk to Jessica next about her cover.
Sabrina, that cover is gorgeous. I didn't think they could top your paid stories, but that is still also gorgeous. For my experience, I think it's common in the traditional like publishing world where you don't really get a lot of say in your covers. So when I got my first cover, I liked it. I did, so it was fine. When I got my second cover, I also liked it, but I didn't like the zoom aspect of it. So I got to go back and forth and say, maybe you should zoom in a bit, zoom out a bit. I didn't like the positioning of it. And they were great with working with me with that one. When I got my third cover, I didn't like my third cover at all. And I was upfront with them. I wasn't as shy as I was beforehand because now I have this 3-year, 4-year, 5-year relationship with them. So I ended up telling them, I don't like this cover. I don't think it fits with the theme. And I listed out my reasons for why I didn't like the cover. And they kind of hit me back with, this is, what marketing thinks would work. And I had to hit them back with, I'm the author. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. It doesn't fit with the book. And one of my main reasons was because it was, a beachy theme. And there was, no beach in the third book at all. It was, a wintry setting. So I was like, this doesn't work. So then they came back to me and they gave me the one that I have now. And I love the one I have now. So I'm really, really, really happy that they listened to me, that we got to work together, and that it ended up with what I have now. Because otherwise I wouldn't like it. And I know that I would have got comments saying, why is it a beach? This is not a beach theme. So I was already anticipating that. And I'm glad that I wasn't scared to talk to them and that we got to work together, because I love my third book cover now. It's one of my favorite ones of the 3 of them. So yeah, I got to work with them.
Well, they do have that saying, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly, right. And I used to be really shy with talking to them because I was like, I'm young, I don't really know anything. These are people who've been doing it forever, the marketing, the experience, they know what people want. But at the end of the day, you're the author and you should be able to say something if you really don't like it. And I was able to provide my reasons, and they listened to me, and they're like, you know what, you're right. Let's change it up a bit. So I'm happy that I said that, and I'm happy it worked out.
It's just like it's always like a power imbalance where some authors they are so shy about actually asking for anything, and instead of looking at it as a collaborative experience. So kudos for you speaking up. Grace, what about your experience with your cover? I only remember one cover from yours.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jess, I love all your covers, and also Sabrina, your cover is very beautiful. So basically Wattpad had made a cover for my book when it went into paid stories, and I was so obsessed with that cover. It was a different cover than it is now, but I thought it was so amazing. So when they asked for my input on the published book, I said I really loved the paid stories cover, and I was kind of hoping that it would be similar. It wasn't, but I have it here actually. It wasn't similar, but I absolutely love this cover. I think it's so beautiful, and I couldn't be happier. But they kind of sent me like mock-up covers quite a few times, and one time I went back and said that I didn't like the font, and I kind of explained why, and they changed the font, and ended up really happy with it. So yeah, like Jess said, in traditional publishing you do kind of get less of a say because they do know the market more than me and all that stuff, but they definitely were open to hearing what I wanted to say and accommodated for that. So yeah, I'm really happy with my cover, and all of your guys' covers that I've seen are so good.
Okay, you can't just show us that cover, show us the front, and then take it away. Bring it back up and give it a go around.
Okay, so this is my cover. I don't really know what else to say about it, just that I think it's really beautiful. This is the back. Yeah, I love the colors. I love it's kind of like textured on the title. It's just, they did such a good job, and I'm so happy with it. So
I love
thank
the
you to
glow from
Wattpad.
the eye.
I know, it's so cute.
It's really cool. I just got mine a couple of weeks ago, and it's nice to hold it. So I still have some more books to buy. Jess, where's your covers? Where's your book?
I usually don't have it on me, but I was anticipating. I knew you, Rodney, and I was like, so this is the cover. This is the one that they changed for me. It was completely different before. It was different like scene, and I think this one works a lot better as like the third book. They're like together and like happy. Maybe, we don't know. Buy the book and see.
Did they go glossy on yours?
They did go glossy. It was a printing error. So if you order, they are going to redo it matte when they reprint it. So if you order your book now, you will have a limited edition version because they're not going to be shiny anymore.
Order now.
So order it now and you'll get your limited edition shiny one. But they will be matte. That was the first thing I noticed when I got it, and I kind of wrote to them like, it doesn't match. It's going to drive me crazy if it's shiny and it doesn't match the matte ones because the other ones are matte. It was a printing error, so I get to have a special limited edition. It'll be worth money someday.
Does anybody else have any covers they want to share? Come on. No ARCs, nothing?
No, I don't have any physical copies of my book yet. That's still in process. It's splashed all over my social media, and if you wanted to head over to Amazon, the pre-order information is there with that beautiful cover right in the listing. So
I want to see it in your hands.
I know. I can't wait to hold my book in my hand, and I think that's something I think we all can agree on, that having that physical book in your hands is a huge sense of accomplishment. That, you know, we've worked really hard to get here, and wow, this is surreal, right? It's here, right?
Well, everyone should follow everyone here on social media so that when Sabrina gets her surprise delivery, she can show us all that gorgeous cover, in hardcover. And Wendy, of course, you have your it's SMW, right?
The When Stars Fall, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. When Stars Fall.
Yes.
Okay, cool, excellent. You don't have a copy, do you?
No, I don't. No.
Okay, fine. I'll get over it. Okay, we're gonna move on to some questions from the audience now. How did you all celebrate when you finally realized that this was happening for you? Anybody want to take it away before I pick? Okay, fine. Yes, go.
I knew you were gonna pick me first. I was on the phone with them and I had to like pretend I was like really like calm and like professional, like, oh, like that's great, like, oh, I'm so excited. And then when I hung up, I did one of like the little happy dances. And then once I got over the happiness, I was kind of like, oh shit, like I have a lot of work to do now with the editing process and rewriting it, and I was still in school. So I got to celebrate for a bit. I had like my Dairy Queen ice cream cake, and then I had to get to work.
Okay, Wendy, how'd you celebrate?
My husband and I ordered like a nice dinner in. That was our celebration. I knew mine was going to be very, very fast from April till September, so there wasn't much time to do anything but fix things. So it was, yeah, we just had a nice dinner.
Okay, Sabrina, did you completely geek out, freak out, or did you?
Me, I almost threw up. Close. Didn't
I
though.
expected a little more excitement than that.
I was very excited. We were like, we celebrate with food way too much, but I was like, we need to go out and have like a fun lunch or something at one of the places I like, but that you don't. So I did get that. I went out and got pad thai, but not until the next day because I didn't want to be nauseous. So yeah, celebratory lunch, which is pretty typical in our house for like really big events. So
okay, Caroline, how did you celebrate?
Well, I have a couple celebration stories. So the funny one is when out of his Two Cream No Sugar, then renamed to Out of His League, when it won the Waddy, I was at work. I was sitting in my cubicle, and my coworkers know that I write, that I was doing this fun thing on the side. And when I got the message that I had won the Waddy, I stood up in my cubicle in the middle of the floor and went, "Oh my God, I won!" And everybody thought I was crazy. And then everybody celebrated with me. They bought me lunch and whatnot. And that was a really big deal. And then when I got the call that they wanted to, at first I got a call that they wanted to publish Out of His League as an ebook. And I remember getting off that call and my hands were shaking. And I looked at my husband and I said, "You're never going to guess what just happened." And he's like, "What?" And I told him, and it was like we had a great dinner and the kids were excited and ran around. And then when I got the call again, they said, "No, we've changed our minds. We want to put it in print." I almost fell over. I had to sit down. And then we had ice cream. The kids at this point were like, "Oh, Mom's getting her book published. Oh, it's all good," because we'd already gone through this celebration a few times with the book, with different things that had happened. And my husband, for Christmas this year, bought me a brand new, there's my cover, bought me a brand new MacBook with a note on it that said, "I'm really proud of you." So that's kind of our love language, gifts and acts of service. So I was super surprised, but he's like, "This is because you're getting a book published. So here you go." And it was kind of, that's how we celebrated.
Oh, it's a big deal. Okay, and we have Grace's celebration.
Yeah, well, when I found out, I was actually doing like a promotional thing with Paid Stories at the time. And so when they organized a call, I went into the call thinking that it was for that. And then I was on a call with Deanna and Leah and Amanda, which was cool because they were kind of the first people that reached out to me from Wattpad ever. And I also was like acting really calm and cool, but on the inside I was screaming. And I was in France at university at the time. So after I got off the call, I wanted to tell my friends, but they were all asleep. So I was kind of like celebrating by myself for a little bit. And then my friends there, we all went out for dinner. And yeah, it was very exciting, but also really unexpected.
One of the downsides of living in New Zealand and having friends other time zones. Okay, we're gonna go to the next question. How would you feel if you saw someone reading your print book in public? Would you tell them that you were the author, or would you? No.
No.
Okay, don't make me pick on you.
I would totally do it. For sure. I'm really proud. And if I saw somebody reading my book, I'd be like, "Hey, that's a great book." And they'd be like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Guess what? I wrote it." And start that conversation. But I'm an introvert naturally, but I love socializing. So I guess I may be ambivert. I don't know. Anyways, I love striking up conversations with strangers and learning about their life. So that would be something that would be super fun for me to see and really exciting because it means somebody bought the book.
What do you guys?
Sorry?
I would be celebrating on the inside and like maybe try and take a sneaky photo, but I wouldn't say anything to them. But it would be very exciting.
Okay,
but I think that's a little bit unrealistic for me, more so because again I live in New Zealand, so I'm less likely to see my book out. But yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah, but can you imagine just being in New Zealand? You're walking down the street in New Zealand, and boom, someone's there reading your book or carrying it by. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it would
Sabrina,
be very cool.
Sabrina, would you tell them?
No, I'm in danger of my husband doing it. If we're together. He's extremely well, I think he's proud of me, and he wants he's like, yeah, she did this thing. He's not necessarily very much a creative maker of things. He's a consumer of things. He's a big nerd, Star Wars, all of it. So he thinks it's very cool that I've done this, and he is going to he will pull a stranger aside, be like, hey, my wife wrote that book, and I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
You're going to get it.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Okay, make sure you tweet about it when it happens. Okay, Wendy, would you tell them?
No, I'm too introverted for that. But my husband is very extroverted, so he would be like Sabrina's husband, and he would be like, "This is my wife, and she wrote the book. Would you like her to sign it? How would you like it personalized?" So he's like the exact opposite of me. He would make total friends with whoever was reading my book and make sure that they knew where to get sequels and any other events that I was doing. And he strikes up conversations with people on plane rides and tells them about his wife who writes books. So he's just like, yeah, there's no
my husband, the manager.
Yeah.
Okay, Jess, come on. Are you? Would you walk up to someone? I'm reading in public. You're gonna walk up to me and say, "Hey, I'm reading your book."
No, I am so introverted, like everyone said, but like Wendy and Sabrina, I have the privilege of having a really proud family, boyfriend and boyfriend's family. And my boyfriend will tell me all the time that he'll be out with his grandmother, and his grandmother will go up to people and be like, his girlfriend writes books, you should go find her. And I just love that so much, as I would never. So she's doing it for me. And I love that about her. And I love that about all of my supporters. They'll do it for me. So I get to stay introverted.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we have another one. Will you keep writing on Wattpad, or do you want to try to go direct to traditional publishing with future projects? Let's start with Wendy.
So going direct to traditional publishers requires an agent, and I have one, so that could be an avenue for me if I wanted to. But I actually really enjoy writing on Wattpad. I love the comments and the interaction with readers. And I also love the push to finish a novel. So to know that there are people there waiting for the next chapter and the next thing to happen, for me, is really motivating. So I don't have any plans to stop writing on Wattpad anytime soon.
Jess?
I mean, I would say never say never for either one, for writing on Wattpad or for the traditional publishing. I really don't know what I'm going to do next, but I know that nothing is off the table. So yeah.
What about you, Caroline?
Yes, most definitely, yes. Wattpad has been enthusiastic and supportive of my work, and I couldn't see myself going anywhere else for the near future, and I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm going to stick with them. Love it.
Okay, now somehow I've managed to completely lose track of time. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys. I thought I had another 15 minutes. But, well, I guess that's what happens when you lose track, right? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all this valuable information and your experiences. The audience is definitely getting a lot from it. So thank you to Grace, Jessica, Wendy, Caroline, and Sabrina for being so awesome and for sharing with us. I'm supposed to say something else. Oh, right. Yeah, there's a panel coming up after. It's Oh yes, it's writing craft with really real characters. It's discussing how you make fictional characters come alive. Be sure to be here at 5 o'clock for that panel. And for now, we're out of here.
What is Writers Connect?
It's a community of writers helping other writers.
Most of us are Wattpad stars.
And that's the connecting thread.
Thanks to sponsors, Wattpad!
But we are writers first. It's what we do.
We write every single day.
Well, some of us do.
So we've decided to hold our own author convention.
We have panels organized by writers with topics we want to talk about.
Genre panels like romance, new adult, and vampires.
Industry panels like serial fiction, the craft of writing,
how to get an agent and keep one.
And we have author meet and greet sessions all online.
We don't just talk about it, we live it.
We're not a panel of experts selling books about how to do things.
We're writers, just like you, and we have experiences to share.
So connect with us. Maybe you learn a thing or two.
We write together, we thrive together.
Writers Connect, November 5th through 6th.